Welcome to the Morning Fix podcast. Today is November 8th, 2024. Today we're going to be talking about our role as sons of God and what it means to be a son of God. Where to start? In the beginning.
In the beginning.
In the beginning. Let's see. Just love awkward silences.
It gives you time to think. Well, before we even dive into that, how's your month been?
It's been good. It's been real good. I think since the last episode that we recorded, I have proposed to my girlfriend, now fiance. I started picking up more work hours so that we could pay for our wedding. Wedding planning has actually been going fantastically. I wasted a lot of time playing a new video game that I'm trying to stop playing as much as possible so that I can actually get things done.
Already?
Hmm?
Already?
I have logged 27 hours in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's a little much.
Anyways, I have killed 2 of my plants because I have no green thumb, even though I try to. I've been a little under the weather, but I'm okay for now, hopefully. Oh my gosh, dude. Fall in Michigan is so pretty. It is beautiful.
Fall in Arizona is just everything's dead.
So what changes?
You get from brown with green to brown with brown.
That's fair. Yeah, no, that's fair. I don't know. How about you? What have you been up to this past month?
I I went and saw a musical, Hadestown.
Nice.
I've mixed emotions on it. Um, on one hand, I really liked it. On the other hand, I didn't like certain things about it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like Hermes and how they
Why not?
portrayed him. It's a little fruity. By a
Fruity.
little, I mean a lot. Um, Hades had like such a good deep voice. It was
Yeah.
like perfect for it. What else did I do this month? I've been trying to do youth group, helping out with the youth group. Um, that's been good. I give a talk tomorrow, but I would have already given it by the time this comes out. And I started a Coursera class to get certificate, so I can try looking into different careers. So I can
Coursera sponsor us.
what?
Coursera sponsor us.
Um, yeah. Oh, and I've been making cutting boards.
Yeah.
So,
It looks
things
really
here and there. I made 2 so far. Anyways,
updates for the morning fix. We will probably be posting more regular type content on top of the podcasts. So reels, YouTube shorts, maybe a couple of YouTube videos if you have time. But both of us are getting really busy.
yeah.
So
If and when we eventually are in the same location, that's going to help a lot with it. But right now we're like far away and we're like, we should do this. And we're like, yeah, we don't want to because
I'm notoriously bad at reaching out.
yeah.
Especially if you don't live nearby and I can't like actually come visit you, it's really hard for me to keep up.
Yeah.
So like Dylan being one of my best friends, I'd like talk to him maybe once every other week. And it's usually him that reaches out. I feel bad. I'm sorry, Dylan.
It's
I'm
okay.
trying.
I've accepted it. I'm just not
Yeah.
letting you escape me.
Okay, but when you live nearby, then I'm the one who won't be stopping bothering you.
I know. Which it's good. Like in person, we definitely are both more motivated to do the things because we're also crazy. Like we're going to the Grand Canyon in December. Hopefully, we'll pre-record and post a lot of stuff then, because I can imagine some mischief going on with me and Patrick. Because I think, did you ask yet if I can use names or no?
Sure.
Okay. I think Mora mentioned is going to ask if we can stay in Sedona or something.
Yeah.
With them. I didn't get a response back, but if that's the case, then we can maybe split up the like drives and stuff. So it could maybe be like me and you for some of it, and then like Cabrini and you, and then me and Mora and stuff. That could be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always gonna be the driver. Just
Yeah.
is what it is.
When it comes to Mora and I when we travel, it's always me driving, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm very okay with that.
Well,
I just think it's a little funny.
For a time, you were like carless and you weren't driving, so I was like, I'll be nice and like offer if you wanted to drive, but he's on his own now. He can drive whenever he
Yep.
wants, basically. So.
Oh, also, I turn 21 next week, so that's friggin' exciting.
Yeah.
It's a week from tomorrow. I turn 21. Oh, I'm gonna turn the legal. I'm gonna turn the legal drinking age for the third time.
Okay, Canada barely counts.
Okay, no, but I lived there, and I turned 18, and I was able to drink. And then we moved, and then it was 19, and then I turned 19, and I was able to drink. And then we moved again to the States, and now I'm about to turn 21, so now I can drink again, hopefully.
You're like 5 minutes away from the border.
Yeah.
And it was still Canada. Anyways. Yes. 3 times changing legal limit. He just is pretentious sometimes and doesn't like the fact that he's told that he can't drink right now.
Yep. So,
Excuse me.
our role as sons of God.
Well, you were talking earlier about how you were in like a rut for a bit.
Yeah. Well, let's start with that. Like the role of a man in a relationship. Well, the role of everyone is to imitate Christ, but in a very specific sense, our role as men is to imitate Christ, and the fact that he was a man, and other things. Our role as men in our relationship is to lead, and our wife's role in I have a lot of phlegm in my throat. The role of the woman in a relationship is to support, and that doesn't mean like the woman's job is to be, like fully a servant for the husband. It's equal parts. The man in the relationship is a servant to his wife, and the wife in the relationship is a servant to her husband. Yeah, I was wondering about that. You're a little foggy there.
I don't know. Anyways, just continue and I'll figure it out while you're talking.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So, I think, and so what I've learned is that, like, yes, the man's role is to lead and the woman's role is to support, and that it goes more than just like, oh, that's just my job, that's my role. It's that is detrimental. That is important to a relationship to work well, because if you don't, both of you will be miserable.
Yeah. Well, it's
because the opposite of like leading, or the temptation for a man if he is not leading is to be apathetic, to say I don't care, and not really have an opinion of anything and not do anything, just follow what his wife is saying. And if the man is being apathetic, then the wife has to become controlling. And the wife being in control emasculates the man, then the man wants to be more apathetic. Then the more apathetic the man is, the more controlling the woman is. And both of you will be miserable because the woman wants support, she wants security, but she can't do that if she's the one who has to do that. She wants to be a support, and the man, as a man, the masculine urge, the regular, not toxic masculinity, is to be a leader and to lead, and to be supported by his wife, and to make sure that he can contribute and provide for his family. And if they're not doing those things, they will be miserable.
Yeah, and it's not like, oh, this is just like it's a man's job and it's a woman's job and that's what like society deemed it. No, it's like we have core values and they're different for everyone. It's like you can't say that like, oh, a man can like have a child. No, a man can't get pregnant. The woman can. You can both call them pregnant, like as a couple, they're both pregnant because like it's the man's baby too. But
the man can't literally conceive.
Yeah. But like the man also wants to be respected, and you can't gain respect without doing anything and becoming apathetic, and the woman can't feel secure by doing all the controlling things, and she's not going to respect the man if he's not doing anything. Or even if it's like, oh, she always tells him to do the things like, can you take out the trash, can you do this, blah 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 blah. She's not going to respect him because she wants him to lead and just take initiative, which I need to work on sometimes.
You and me both, man.
Yeah, but it's like an ongoing battle to just work on. Because like if you don't, it's like if someone's being controlling all your life and you're taking the apathetic road, you're gonna build up resentment because you're like, stop. I feel like I'm always like told what to do and like caged or whatever, and you better believe that whoever's being controlling is gonna build up resentment because they're like, why do I always have to tell you to like take out the trash or put the laundry in the basket or something?
I am the kind of person I will admit who, like, if I'm going to go take out the trash already, just because I'm like, oh, the trash needs to be taken out, and I'll go do that. And then someone's like, hey, can you take out the trash, please? I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it anymore. It's so childish, but
We're
I like
petty spaghettis.
petty spaghetti.
It's like spiteful of us to do, but it's like we don't want to do it anymore because it's like we were going to do like what we were going to do, but now the fact that you told us just showed that you didn't trust or respect that we would actually do it on our own.
Yeah. And that's not to say, like, hey, if my wife needs me to empty the trash,
Yeah.
or my fiance or my girlfriend or anyone in any relationship, if your significant other tells you to empty the trash, it's okay because maybe you didn't know, or maybe it has to be done.
Yeah.
You have other things, but you can get to it.
Maybe you saw that it was like not full, but whoever was using it made it full, and then you're like, oh, like, by the way, because like if you're
it was a bad example, good example. It was an example, and it works.
Anyways, so I think other things, it's like, so this is actually what my talk is on that I have to write. And it's like, if you're like a son of God and like a man specifically, well, to go before like the son part, it's like you're a child of God, and to be a child of God, you have like 4 characteristics of just any child for like a childlike characteristics, and that's not to be like, oh, that's childish. No, because I think people get those confused of like you can have childlike characteristics, shouldn't be childish. And that goes with like a child is very peaceful where they should be. They're very free. They have a lot of freedom. And it's not saying they don't have rules or whatever, but it's like they feel free because like the parent puts rules on them
Yeah.
so that they are safe. But like, heck, every Friday in Pennsylvania when I lived there, we would have like a bonfire every night, and we would just run around just having fun. Did we break any rules? No. We felt very free during that time, though.
Yeah.
So it's like peace, freedom, security that goes in with the rules and stuff too. It's like security and freedom. No, it correlates, and joy. And it's like
Yeah.
as your relationship with your parents, and like this case, God the Father, is deepened, those characteristics will deepen more. Um, but a big thing with that is there's a responsibility that comes with it. And a lot of people forget that there's a responsibility with it because they think they are entitled to things whenever it's like, no, you're not entitled to things. You have to do the work to get the things that you want. It's like actions have consequences. You can't just say things and they happen. It's like you need to put
Yeah.
in the work, and it's like sure, you can call God your father, but you need to act like his son.
Yeah. I remember thinking about it. I was like, how can I like be a good Christian and be holy and all of that, but also like I have to work a job and I have to do all of these things. And then a number of people will be like, well, you can pray while you work. And I'm like, thanks. That's
It's
about as useful as saying, cheer up. Don't be sad.
it's so hard too because it's like you
Yeah.
might be like listening to praise and worship all day, but or even just thinking about like things, but everyone gets distracted, and it's hard to always be focused. I am a very distracted person. So is that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that like there's truth in what they were saying, but also I understand where it comes from. It's like it's difficult to do.
Hmm.
But I think that people need to realize that a lot of their day-to-day life um, can and already is very like Christian
Hmm.
or Christ-like, because you're called to imitate Christ, and Christ worked, right?
Hmm.
One of my arguments for like the Catholics who are like, I don't drink because if I drink, I'm gonna go to hell, and I'm like, well, hold on a second. In the Bible, Jesus was either going to a party, at a party, or coming from a party where he drank and ate. So hold on, drinking is fine. Just don't drink yourself into oblivion.
Yeah.
Um, but like we're called to be Christ-like, and
Hmm.
we can do that during work. And a lot of the things that we already do is like that in our day-to-day life.
Yeah.
The thing we have to realize is we actually have to think about that and be like, okay, well, in my job, what is something that I can do that is Christ-like? I can be kind to others.
Hmm.
I can avoid swearing at this one person because they really annoy me. Um, being a good person and an example of a good person to others is very Christ-like,
Yeah.
and that is our role as people, as sons and daughters of God, but sons particularly. I'm having a hard time enunciating words.
I know
Um,
that I am too.
yeah, but
Well,
that's what I was going into, is that if you think that you're having a hard time living like a Christian at work because you think that your prayer life and your work life are separate, they're actually very, very well intertwined.
hmm bouncing off of that, it's like if you're gonna be Christ-like, it's like there's he gave some examples of it, but like what those examples is, it's like it comes down to the root of it. Um, it's just loving one another. It's like Jesus says, "Love one another as I have loved you, so also you should love one another," which I tied it into. I basically made my talk my net talk. Like literally, I added that quote in, and I was like, "So we are called to love one another," and I was like, "I feel like I'm writing my talk,"
Yeah.
but it's like it's so true. It's like we're like given this responsibility, which I didn't even say what the responsibility is, but it's like to act as sons of God. And the best way to act as a son of God is to act like Jesus. And what does Jesus tell us to do? And what did Jesus do? He loved everyone. And that's just willing the good for the other. So it's like just because like by like not swearing at the person, yeah, that's willing the good for the other, but it's also like hold the door open for someone. Society's gonna not like it necessarily. Depends on who you get, because I've had some people who are like, "Why are you holding the door open for me?" And like some people are, most people will say thank you, but you get those people every once in a while. But it's like you can do little acts of kindness that are like not that big of a deal, like someone drops something, just picking it up for them or whatever, or just different things. Because that's really all it is. But I guess the biggest thing that can be hardest is almost to be like a silent witness in it, because a big issue, in my opinion, is people do these things only for the attention. And it's
Mhm.
like, I don't want the attention. I want Jesus to get the attention from my actions.
Yeah,
I almost,
because doing it for the attention removes the merit in it.
yeah, there was a podcast I was listening to with Jordan Peterson, and I forget who else, but he was telling, um, the guy was telling a story about how he was in the foster care system and stuff, and um, his mom, adopted mom, was in a relationship with another woman, and this woman told him to wake up at 5:30 every morning and light the wood fire in the stove, so that whenever they woke up at 7, the house would be warm. And he didn't do it for like a week, and finally she like took him aside and was like, "You need to do this." And he was like, "Why?" He was like, "I don't care." She was like, "Because you're the man of the house, and it's your responsibility, because we don't have a man in the house to do this for the other people." And it gave him that responsibility, and it gave him a reason. And afterwards, he would do it at 5:30 every morning. He would be gone before the house got warm. He'd have to wake up, and the house would be like freezing cold. But like, he felt better from it, and he didn't even get any of the rewards. He probably didn't get much thanks either, because he was gone. He was like,
Mhm.
he had to go to school. Um, but it's like, you don't do it, like, we don't do these things for attention. We do it because it's needed to do, and you almost want the person who's receiving these things to be like, it's a blessing from like God. It's like, oh, look at this. Like, someone went out of their way to do this. It's like, thanks God for putting someone in my life to like
Yeah.
do this random thing for me.
Yeah. It's it's really good. I think like going off of that, like how our job is to just love one another and to will the good for another person. One of like the few things that I like really dislike when people say is like, "Oh, go to hell," because that you're doing the exact opposite and
Hmm.
you are willing the absolute worst for someone.
Yeah.
Um, and there's like that like you can go all deep into it and be like, "Oh, if you say this, you're technically telling them that you can go to hell." I don't want to do that, but I do want to say like knowing that you're not hoping the best for someone else
Hmm.
is a little bit doing that. And that's an extreme. That's like if I don't hold open the door so that I have to like watch another person open the door, I'm being a little selfish, but I'm
Yeah.
not wishing them to go to hell.
Hmm.
But I feel like tendencies like that is kind of like a downward trend.
Yeah.
Whereas the opposite is doing those things is an upward trend. The more you do them,
Hmm.
easier it gets and better it is for everyone else.
Yeah. And the more others people see you do it, like,
The more they're gonna want to do it.
yeah, and like the more they're around it, like, you become like those who are around you.
Are
um
you repeating your talk, Dylan?
it was just came up in my head, and I was just like, I realized it as I was saying it. But like, it's true. You're like, you become like those around you. Like, I don't know, Cabrini, she did not like coffee before she met me,
I remember that.
but every time I would have a coffee, I would have her try it. Now she loves coffee, and that's not to say like, oh, she just tried it enough and like started liking it. But to a degree, it's like she tried it because she knew I liked it, and then over time, she like, it still is like she became kind of like me. It's like I wasn't a huge fan of musicals or reading that often, but I've read a handful of books because she asked me to, and I've enjoyed them, and I've listened to
Dylan
musicals,
actually probably reads more than I do now.
and I
And I
enjoy
am.
it. Yeah. So it's like the more we act like Christ, the more others can see through our example, even if they don't know Christ yet. They can start acting like Christ, and that's overall, I feel like, an upward trend. And it's how to restore masculinity, because a lot of places don't like the fact that men are trying to take initiative again, but it's so needed.
It's it's very needed. I think that if men as a whole don't start taking up their role again as men, then our our state of society as it is going to go down.
Yeah. Well,
Things are just going to get worse.
there was, I forget who said it, but someone was like, the final battle between like the devil and God is like between family lives.
That was Father Donald Calloway.
Well,
No, Fulton Sheen.
I don't remember, but
It was in the 33 Days to Morning Glory, the
oh, okay.
consecration to Saint Joseph.
But do you know what you do?
Hmm.
Or do you know what the devil does? He twists things. He twists the good and makes them bad. And what he's doing with family life is twisting the roles of a man and a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you're getting apathetic men controlling women. But you don't want it to be the extreme, because then it's like you flip it the other
That's
way,
where
and then it's like the man does
masculine.
the leadership and he only does the discipline, and he only, where it's like, what if he's gone for like time for work, or what if he's gone for like what if he has a trip, because like I have to go on work trips for days. It's like, if only the dad does punishments or discipline, what if like
Yeah.
the kid, or what if like for some reason like the father was in like a bad relationship, so he was more eerie on discipline because he knows how easy it would be too aggressive. So you don't want it to be skewed where like only the woman does this and only the man does this. You want it to be a nice balance.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost the hardest part.
Yeah. I think going off of that with like relationships and marriages these days is that like the one of the biggest things that has been skewed is like if people get married and like 3 years down the line they're like, oh, I guess it just wasn't, we married the wrong person.
I'm not feeling it anymore.
That you're not going to feel it all the time. It's a good marriage. People who have been married for 50, 60 years are happy because they made it work and they worked through it, even though like maybe in the moment they weren't happy.
Yeah.
They need to work through it. I think there's a statistic about arranged marriages versus regular marriages, and arranged marriages have a higher success rate. And I think that's often because they've had to make it work.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool because it goes to say like if your like marriage isn't doing great, that's not a reason to give up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give up. You try and you try and you make it work.
Yeah. It's almost um I had it on like the tip of my tongue. Oh, there's this trend going on, which I hate and love. It's like, why do people say marriage is so hard? It's not that hard. It's like, if you love the person, you'd stay like whatever. But then it like cuts to a different thing. So that part I hate, because it's like, well, yeah, obviously it's gonna be hard. It's like,
Yeah.
um, but then the other half is like, when he doesn't do this, and it's like every day of like this whole thing, and it's like we get pet peeves from the person that we are around, and they will do it every time. It's like, it's habits that they do that bother you, but you can't change. And it's like, it's so hard to like just not get just mad at and irritated. But it's like, it's hard, and you need to work at it, and you need to be like, you know what? I love them anyways.
Yeah.
I will choose to love them. It's not
That's what it is.
I feel like I love you. No, it's I choose to love you every day. I choose to will your good over mine sometimes. A lot of
Yeah.
times, especially with men, it's like men are like, I choose to will your good for like towards like their wives and stuff. Women, it's like I choose to will your good for children usually. That's like the hierarchy.
Yeah. The hierarchy is the man loves the woman loves the children and the man.
Yeah.
Um but
And
yeah,
that's not to say
you
the men
hit
don't
the
love
you
the
hit the
children.
nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head with you choose to love them.
Mhm.
That is the key, is that like you may like love someone and you may get married to them,
Yeah.
and then like you may feel like the love is gone or you don't feel loved anymore, but it's not that. You have to choose to love them because things are going to be really hard. You have to choose to love them through the hard things.
Yeah. It's like people sometimes go like, well, I don't have a choice. For certain things, you might not have a choice, but you have a choice of how you act around people and around situations. And if you act for others' benefits, like to will their good, and that's like good, innately good.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if you have other people, if I'm always willing Patrick's good, and he's not willing mine, well, yeah, I'm kind of at a loss here because that's that. But if like we start getting a society where I'm willing Patrick's good and Patrick's starting to will my good, and then everywhere else, then it's like everyone's getting lifted up through that. Everyone's sacrificing their own good, but other people are also willing your good.
Yeah, there was well, first of all, on top of that, like I think another important thing in marriage, and going off of what you said about like if you were willing my good and I wasn't willing yours, is conflict resolution. I think that is a very important and lost skill these days,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like, hey, you did this thing and the other person says sorry and they both live on with their lives, nothing changes. It's you have to like. I think that was something that was really big for me about Net, was that they kind of taught
Mm-hmm.
us how to conflict resolve
Yeah.
resolve conflict. Or like me and Mora, if there is something that's bothering me and I'm like really upset, I'll go to Mora and I'll say, hey, there's this thing that happened that you did that really upset me. I'm not in a place right now where I can talk about it because I will get upset and I will react badly. So will you be open to talking to me in a couple hours, and then we can sit down and actually talk this through when we're both in a good headspace.
Yeah.
And then we'll sit down and we'll talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good. But these days people will just be like, I'm really mad at you and I'm not going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Or I'm really mad at you and this is your fault
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it is your fault. Like, oh, I'm upset because you did this thing, and they'll be like, well, actually, this is why this is happening,
Mm-hmm.
and something that you did, and then you have to have the humility to accept that. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're right, I did do that.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't know how to resolve conflict these days, and that is really, really important.
Yeah. I remember on Net, this was like it was the retreat when it was like 3 people were sick, you being one of them.
Yeah.
And it was also when the van got broken into. We went to the host home for dinner, which it wasn't even our host home, and like I was in line to get food or whatever, and Patrick was like, "Hey Dylan, are you okay?" And I like looked at him dead in the eye, like no emotion whatsoever. I was like, "Patrick, I literally have nothing nice to say to you right now, so I'm not going to say anything." And he like was
I did
like,
feel really bad.
he was like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything he did wrong. It was more of just like a buildup of. I didn't necessarily do conflict resolution nicely because it was a multitude of small things that I'm like, oh, I can just do this and it's like fine, but
Yeah. Yeah. The I'm gonna go back to the thing that you said, which was like, um, if I'm willing the good for you and you're
yeah,
willing the good for me, and like we're sacrificing our good
mm-hmm.
for others, but everybody's being elevated in the same way.
Mhm.
There was like an analogy for like heaven and hell,
Mhm.
and like this guy who went to hell and he looked at all the people, and everybody had 6-foot spoons attached to their hands,
Mhm.
and they all had food in front of them, and everybody in hell was like thin and starving because
Mm.
nobody could fill themselves. And then he went to heaven, and it was the same thing. Everybody had 6-foot spoons tied to
Mhm.
their hands, but all of them were full and happy. And the
Mm.
difference is that everybody in hell was trying to feed themselves with their spoons, and everybody in heaven was using the spoons to feed each other.
Mm.
And that's what it is that you have to sacrifice and stop thinking about yourself and think about other people,
Yeah.
and that catches on, and other people will start thinking about other people.
Mhm.
It's a whole beautiful symphony of goodness.
And it's like, and that's like almost trusting that someone else will take care of you too. And it's
Yeah.
like we have to trust that God will take care of us. Like I put in the talk that um, Peter shows us this analogy perfectly. Jesus calls Peter out on the water because Jesus knows the best thing for Peter to do is to go be with Jesus. Now, everyone can be like, well, Jesus was just walking to the boat. Yes. But Jesus wanted Peter then. And that's the best thing that Peter could have had right then. And Peter stepped out onto the water, trusting that Jesus will Peter's good to go to him. And Peter, I mean, did Jesus need anything? No. But what Jesus wanted, which was good for Jesus, and it's really what God wants, is like everyone to be with him, so that like willing God's good to a degree is like us having a relationship with him and like showing him all the love we can.
Yeah.
So Peter went and stepped out in faith, in trust that Jesus would take care of him, and he walked on the waves. But the second he looked away and started to not trust that Jesus would will his good is when he fell. And Jesus still
Yeah.
taught him. Like, Jesus still pulled him out of the waves.
Because Jesus is a G.
He's a J.
Jesus is J.
Anyway, so.
But technically, he's also a G.
Mm-hmm. So.
So, recapping, our role as sons of God and men of God is to be the leader and be the example.
Yep.
And serve others to the best of our ability, to
Mhm.
will the good for others and to love others as best as we can, and to give up our selfishness and think of others first.
Mhm.
Anything to add that I forgot?
And that's extremely difficult.
But it's needed and it's good. And it's healing for the man too.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're doing good for others is a very healing thing.
A great peace, joy, and freedom and security comes along with it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like with Mora and I, when I had that realization, I did start to feel a lot happier. I started taking more of a leadership role, rejecting apathy. I started to feel so much happier.
What was the thing you said? Reject
Passivity.
reject passivity, embrace on net, which to a degree you didn't really do.
Reject passivity. Like the four pillars. Or something else.
You would say it on net. It wasn't the 4 pillars. It was you're like reject passivity, embrace difficulty, or something along that lines.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. You do it a lot more now.
I do it a lot more now. I was a pretty lazy and passive person on the road.
It's funny because you would think you would like net was the opportunity to do it, but you do it now more, and it's easier to take the lazy road.
Yeah,
because it was only
it's harder harder to be active. It's harder to not be lazy. But I'm almost in a sense I'm doing it more because it is more important.
Mm-hmm.
Now more than ever, it's very important.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, shall we wrap it up?
Yep. Well, thank you all for listening or watching or both.
We are open to feedback. Please let us know if you have any feedback.
Yep.
And
We'll see you all in December.
adios.
See ya.